Aloha. Good evening. This is Andrew Aloha Live out of Flagstaff. Whoops. Hang on a second. Try this again. Aloha. Good evening. This is Andrew Aloha Live out of Flagstaff, Arizona. Spiritual Image Productions on YouTube Live. And well, first of all, I want to start off by congratulating Joe Biden and Kamala Harris on their appointments to the new offices. Sounds to me like they got a whole new way of life ahead of them. So hopefully whatever they do in their life, in their journey, it will be successful and beneficial to all those they serve. So in the meantime, I've been working with trying to figure out the best way to do these updates, these reviews, whatever you want to call them, and so I've decided to go ahead and do a separate current events or current affairs update on a different day. And then I was doing a Andrew Aloha movie review, and just covering all the different movies that I've been watching over the last few days, last few weeks actually. And it got so overwhelming that I said, screw it, I'm just going to divide it up into 2 different sessions of movies that are 2 thumbs up, and that's just going to be one video by itself. And then I'm going to do the other movies, the 1.5 thumb up, and then also the 1 thumb up movies on a separate video. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on the 2 thumb up movies. And if there's anything that you any movie that you watch this Christmas season, this holiday season, and if you know, if you're out there and you're capture moments as they happen. I'm not sure how this streaming is working, but anyhow, if there's any movie that you watch with the family, with your friends, and so forth, the first movie that I want to talk about is called Operation Christmas Drop. A very interesting, very holiday spirit movie, without a doubt. This woman who's up for a promotion in the White House is working for this congresswoman, and they're looking at shutting down some bases across the world, in the world, and one of them happens to be this base in Guam. Now, just to let you know, I was in the Air Force years ago, and on our way to Korea. Was it Korea? I believe it was Korea. Don't quote me because it's been so long. But anyhow, on our way to our team spirit exercises, we stopped in Guam for the night. We didn't really get to look around and check it out because we got there during the evening, and we went straight to our barracks and passed out, and then got up in the morning, grabbed some grub, and then took off again. So anyhow, this whole this movie set takes place in Guam, which I think is very, and from what I can remember, it doesn't look anything like the movie for sure, in my own personal experience, but that's besides the point. So anyhow, this woman, the congresswoman tells her, you know, her secretary or whatever she is, her assistant, her apprentice or whatever, she goes, "Oh, you got to go to Guam and go check out this base, and because we need to know if we're going to close it." And they were, you know, with her and within the idea that they were planning on closing the base anyhow. So anyhow, she goes over there, and she has this attitude, right? And there's now I gotta say this. There's several movies and even a couple of TV series that Netflix has come out with that have been really, really good, two thumb up movies, and this is one of them. It just came out like 2 days ago or so. So anyhow, with Kat Graham, Alexander Ludwig, Virginia Madsen, Janet Kidder, Jeffrey Joseph, and Bruce Best. Bruce Best, and this is based on a true event movie. There was a it's not exactly the events that took place, but mostly it's expressing the fact that the Air Force, and I used to be in the Air Force, has been doing this since 1952. They've been doing these drops. They went out there and they were flying around and they seen these natives, and the natives were out there just waving at them, just hi, and they go, whoa. They felt so much love from these people, so they went back and loaded up their jets, their planes, and then dropped off a bunch of stuff, supplies for them, a bunch of gifts for them for Christmas. So this has been going on for years, and as you'll find out in the movie, the woman that goes over to examine, from Washington, goes over to examine the place. She has this attitude like just quit messing with me, and I just want to see the all the facts and all the stats. So right. So anyhow, she falls in love with the island and the people, and one of the generals, or he's not a sergeant, but anyhow, I think he's a captain. I don't think he's a lieutenant, but I think he's a captain. But anyhow, he takes her around, looks around, and he takes her to get to know the people and the island, and she just wants to see the crux of everything, so she can go home and she can go back to her family for Christmas. So anyhow, she ends up really falling in love with the place, and and come to find out that everything that concerning this Christmas drop, they end up dropping stuff to, I believe, 50 islands. I think they said 56, but in the information, the stats at the end of the movie, it said 50 islands. So they go out and drop all this stuff to all these islands, 50 islands, and they do that once a year for something. A lot of the islands, maybe most of the islands, I'm not sure, but anyhow, they go and drop off all these supplies, but they throughout the year they're collecting stuff, and then they start packing boxes and getting them ready, and then they go out there and send them to all these people. The captain just goes, Alexander Ludwig, he goes, nothing's wasted, and most of our time is donated, so it's not like there's nothing it's costing the military anything at all, and quite the opposite. And they're getting training. The pilots are getting training for flying, and doing maneuvers and exercises for all that. And then even the crates that they put the stuff in are used for firewood, for building stuff or whatever. And even the parachutes that they drop the crates with are used up for materials for making, I don't know, all kinds of stuff. So it's a very amazing movie, and the whole idea is that these people are doing a major service for their communities, which has been going on since 1952, a huge endeavor. And then at the very end, the congresswoman ends up flying into the island herself and checking it out. Right, she's like all pissed off because her protege isn't doing what she's supposed to be doing. So she ends up going on one of those flights to drop all those presents and all that stuff, and she's like, she's like bewildered, right? So she changes her mind, and and everything is just a whole lot better, better in her mind about what she needs to do with that that particular base. So they decided not to close the base. Now the next movie, actually it's not a movie, it's a TV series, The Queen's Gambit, another Netflix movie, and it just came out this year as well. Television series, I believe it came out this year. Let me check. Yeah, it came out this year. So season 1, and I think they already got season 2 coming out as well. So anyhow, Anna, Anya Taylor-Joy, Marcin, Dorosinsky, Thomas Brody, Sangster, Harry Melling, Mario Heller, Bill Camp, and Moses Ingram, and let me see, Matthew Dennis Lewism, Russell Dennis Lewis. Is that right? Are they brothers? Maybe they're brothers. I don't know. Jacob Fortune Lloyd. Oh, and I forgot the guy Bruce Best from the movie the Operation Christmas Drop, which I just talked about. He's like a reverend or something like that. He's like the liaison that goes around and talks to everybody and makes all the connections so they can go do all those maneuvers for the Operation Christmas Drop. But anyhow, in this next movie, The Queen's Gambit, it's a whole television series. I think it's 7 episodes, and Anya Taylor-Joy, it starts out with her as a kid, and her mother is like psychotic, and I don't know if she's an alcoholic, drug addict, or whatever. But she ends up divorcing the husband, and they get into it, and so anyhow, her mother, they get in an accident, and her mother gets killed, and Anya becomes an orphan in this Catholic school, I believe, or this Catholic orphanage, I believe. So anyhow, they start giving them, and I don't know how true it is still, but it's probably still true to some extent. They give them all these drugs so that they can medicate them and keep them in control, right? So that's how they function, these orphanages, a lot of these orphanages. So anyhow, so they start giving her a green pill and a red pill. It's like the Alice in Wonderland or whatever. So she starts taking she makes a friend with this woman, this black woman, and she goes. The black woman goes, well, don't take the green pill until at night when you get ready to go to bed, because it makes you really drowsy and sleepy. So she saves it. She saves a bunch of them, and this goes into a whole paranormal experience, because she takes the green pill, and at first she goes into this I think she gets in trouble, and wait, was that, or maybe that was another one. Anyhow, she ends up going into the basement, and there's a janitor there, and he teaches her how to play chess. So anyhow, at night, after they play a game or 2 or 3 or whatever, she goes to bed and she takes these pills, sometimes 2 or 3 or 4 of them or whatever, and all of a sudden she starts seeing these chess pieces in this chessboard on the ceiling of where she's at, and they start moving in different directions. So now we're talking. She's got probably photographic memory, is my guess. So she's memorizing all these different moves and all this stuff, and pretty soon she's kicking this janitor's ass, right? And then the janitor calls some school nearby, a high school or something, and they have a chess team, I believe, and so she goes and plays the whole team, and at the same time kicks all their asses, right? So anyhow, Anya gets adopted eventually, and the new family, it's only a husband and wife. The wife is more or less an alcoholic or whatever, and the husband is a salesman, so he takes off. And eventually he doesn't come back. He just keeps going, right? So now it's just the mother and Anya, and so they actually develop a pretty good relationship throughout. And she goes, she sees in this magazine that there's a chess tournament, right? So she goes and enters at the chess tournament, and I believe, did she beat that guy? I think she beat that guy in that tournament, and that was her first major tournament, and then she wins like $500 or something like that, and her mother's going, "Wow, really? You can make all this money from chess?" She goes, "Yeah, there's bigger tournaments too, and a lot more money." So her mother becomes her agent, more or less, right? And so she ends up giving her mother like 15% of whatever it makes. So they go on all these tournaments, and towards the end of the TV series, the one big player that she wants to play is the Russians, because the Russians are really good at chess, right? So she does at some tournament. She ends up, I think, in Vegas. I can't remember, but anyhow, she goes and she plays, and she goes up, or maybe it was in France, or maybe both. I don't know, because she played him 3 times. So she goes and plays this guy, and he kicks her ass, right? And then he plays her again. I think first in Vegas and then in Paris or something like that. And then he kicks her ass again. But the night before in France, some woman that she met, she's like a model or something like that. They go out and the model ends up talking her into going out and drinking, and so she gets drunk and so she naturally she's going to get her ass kicked, right? So finally, she makes it to she's invited to play some major tournament, the biggest tournament in the world, in Russia, right? And sure enough, she ends up playing him one more time. But this time she doesn't get drunk or anything like that, and she stops taking the pills. And now she's able to, at the very end, she her buddies. She as she's playing at all these tournaments, she's meeting all these different guys, and she's making all these friends, right? So at the very end, they go, well, the Russians, they team up together and they practice with each other before tournaments and that tournament, so that they can win. So they call her all the way from California. I don't remember where it was that they were at. But anyhow, they call it from wherever in the United States, and they go, do this. So they have all these different plays in case this guy does a move, because they're studying all his moves. And so, and now this was what was really interesting. Chess, a lot of people would find it boring, and to make a movie and make it exhilarating and interesting and vibrant, they talk each play-by-play move, and wow, does it make it really interesting. But anyhow, they're studying all his moves, and they tell her all the different possibilities of all the moves, and she's like memorizing all this, right? And at the very end, he does a move that none of them tell her about, right? He pulls a fast one, and she's going, oh man. And then all of a sudden, her paranormal ability kicks in. She sees all the men and the board on the ceiling again, and they start moving around to all these different possibilities, and finally, she makes her move, and she does. She kicks that guy's ass, and he's like, wow, And then this guy is like a world chess champion, and he hadn't been beaten in who knows how long. I don't know, but it was a very interesting TV series. Especially if you get into chess and stuff like that. Now, again, it came out this year. All these movies and TV series came out this year. The next one is Holidate, and I gotta tip my hat to Netflix, because they've been coming out with some really good stuff lately. But Emma Roberts, Luke Bracey, Francis Fisher, Christian Chenoweth, Cynthia Wu, Jessica Capshaw, Andrew Batchelor. Anyhow, what's her name? Emma Roberts, who's Eric Roberts. I don't know if you know who Eric Roberts is, but it's her daughter, his daughter, and she's also the niece to Julia Roberts. So, but anyhow, she's like this entrepreneur, online entrepreneur, and she does all her work at home, and she's working on the computer, blah blah, constantly, blah blah blah, and that's how she makes her money. So anyhow, she doesn't have time for a guy, and all this other stuff is going on. So anyhow, she goes to her aunt's birth, one of holiday parties or something like that, and another one of her aunts is there, and she goes, "Oh, this is Joe Schmo, right?" I don't know what his name is, but anyhow, and she goes, "Well, he's my holiday." They're going, "What? What's holiday?" Well, it's just somebody that you get together with during the holidays, and that's all they're good for, and then that's all they're there for. And apparently, the aunt was also it was like a screw buddy, right? Sex buddy. So not only was it a holiday, but it was a sex buddy, and she would have sex with him too, or whatever. So anyhow, Emma Roberts ends up at the mall for whatever reason. She's doing all this stuff, and all of a sudden she runs into this guy, and I think it was literally, but anyhow, Luke Bracey, and she meets this guy, and he's like from Australia, from England. I don't know where he's from, but anyhow, you can hear the accent, and they're like, kind of perturbed at each other, like going off on each other, blah blah blah. You did this, no, you did that, and then they start talking about dates and holidays, and her aunt. She starts talking about her aunt and the holidays. So he goes, "Well, then why don't we do that? Why don't we do a holiday?" So they start getting together on all these holidays, right? For Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, birthday parties, Valentine's parties, all this stuff, and they get together and they hook up as a date, but there's no they make the rule that there's no sex involved and no kissing involved or whatever. It's just a date to have fun, and that's it. So they start doing all this stuff, and of course eventually they end up hooking up with each other and they live happily ever after. Okay, fine, whatever. So now Emily in Paris, another Netflix TV series, came out this year, season 1. Lily Collins, Lucas Bravo, Camille Razat, Ashley Park of Philippine, Leroy Boileau, Samuel Arnold, Bruno Yuri, Gory, William Abadi, Jean Christo Bouvet, and anyhow, Lily works for a marketing firm in Chicago, right, in the Midwest, and so they're sending a rep over there to help a company in Paris with their marketing, and they were going to send some other woman, but she got sick or she got pregnant or something, I don't know what. Anyhow, so they send Lily instead, and Lily's going, "Really?" So she goes to France, and the only problem is she can't speak French, right? She doesn't know how to speak French, and so and they do a really good job of exemplifying a lot of the French, because apparently a lot of French people are real buttholes, right? They got an attitude, and they think anyhow, they got an attitude. So I'm going to leave it at that. So anyhow, Lily not only has to do with their lack, the difficulty with communication because of differences in language, but she also has to deal with their attitude. And who is it? Camille Razat. I think she's like the head cheese at this firm in France, right? So anyhow, they go back and forth, tit for tat, but Lily keeps coming up with some really good ideas and really good marketing ploys and all this stuff, and the clientele for this company in France likes her and likes her ideas. So anyhow, eventually Camille fires her, right? And then she's got a couple of guys that work with her there that are kind of like rooting for her, right? They're behind the back of Camille, right? So they go, well, don't worry about firing. Even if you're fired, so what? It takes months for you to actually be fired. So anyhow, Lily sticks around. She goes, okay. She sticks around, and then Camille goes, all right. Well, if you're going to stick around, anyhow, make yourself busy, useful, and do something. So she goes on and does all this stuff. Anyhow, there's a lot of funny stuff in this TV series, and the clash in American and French cultures is really hilarious. Especially when you bring Lily into the picture, right? So there's a lot of funny stuff going on, and anyhow, there's I think it's 8. I can't remember how many episodes it is, but I think it took me like 3 or 4 days to watch all of them because there was such interesting, funny stuff. But anyhow, you can check that on your own whenever you want. Now, this next one is actually a documentary called BlackPink, Light Up the Sky, and this came out this year on Netflix, and I mean Netflix is really batting 100 right now. But anyhow, it almost became a 1.5 thumb up movie because there was they kept, and it took me longer than usual to sift through and watch this documentary because they had subtitles, and they spoke a lot of it in Korean, and they had subtitles. And I hate watching movies and documentaries with subtitles. I mean, if there's a little bit, I can live with that. But the whole freaking movie, forget it. But anyhow, come to find out, these 4 girls. 4 girls? Hang on a second. I'll tell you. There's these 4 girls. They're all Asian. Oh yeah, here we go. I believe they're all Korean girls. One is born in Bangkok, and she grows up in Thailand or whatever. And then Lalisa is her name. And then Rose was born in New Zealand but grew up in Australia. But I think she's also Korean, if I understand that correctly. And then Jenny was born in South Korea, and then Jisoo was born also in Korea as well. So somehow they have this company that goes out and they recruit talent, right? They go out and have all these auditions and put together these all this stuff. And now the unique thing about this was they had all these group of people. Initially, I think they had nine girls, I think, or 9 people, and they were going to train them all and then take them out and do the strip, right? Do the tour. And you know they go and do auditions all over Korea, Australia, I think maybe New Zealand, I don't remember, but not just there in Korea, but all different places. And then they train these people before they send them out and start doing a tour. So these girls did training from 4 to 5 years, I believe, before they even went on to a main stage, before they actually went out and into the public for the most part, in the sense of speaking. So now the other thing about this whole story is that I believe that these girls are soulmates. You know, they were brought together to do this whole routine, song and dance routine. No pun intended. But anyhow, they come out and they do this whole training program, and again, I believe they're soulmates, and then boom, they go out into the public and start doing their shows, and wow, they hit the jackpot, because they instantaneously they become huge success. The first women, all female group to perform at was Coachella. I mean, they break all kinds of records, all kinds of stuff that had never been done before, specifically by Korean people. And so it was just amazing to see these women come together. The documentary, I think, could have done a better job with the documentary, but just the story was so powerful that I had to give it a 2 thumbs up. Anyhow, the King of Staten Island came out this year with Pete Davidson, Marissa Tomei, Bill Burr, Belle Powley, Maud Apatow, and I think that's what's his name? I don't know if his name is Steve Apatow, but anyhow, Jude Apatow, I believe. Anyhow, I think that's his daughter, and then Steve Buscemi. So this Pete Davidson, wow, this was a hoot. It starts out with come to find out Pete Davidson's character's father died, right? And so he's like way over that, like he doesn't even think about that anymore. And they're partying with these girls, and the girls are going, "Oh, we're so sorry your father died." And he goes, "Oh, I'm not. That whole boat has been gone a long time ago." So anyhow, Pete is a complete stoner, right? Pothead. That's all he does is stay home and get high, and then somehow his mom, Marissa Tomei, ends up with this other fire person. His dad was a firefighter, like a captain or something like that of the local fire station. So anyhow, but his dad, come to find out, was a big hero, but he, come to find out, his dad was also, in his fair share of bullshit, right? So anyhow, Marissa Tomei ends up with one of the firefighters that works at the local fire station. He ends up coming over, and how he ends up with this firefighter is that he's a tattoo artist. He does tattoos, so he practices on everybody, the whole family, all his friends, and they're going, "No, we don't want another tattoo. We're adding up." So anyhow, this kid pulls up. They're at the beach, and this kid comes up. "Hey, I want a tattoo." He goes, "No." So he goes, "Yeah, give me a tattoo," or something to that effect. So he gives him a tattoo. And he goes, "Ah!" He starts crying. He goes home and he's all pissed. And so his dad comes over, who's obviously the firefighter from the local fire station. And the one that hooks up with Marissa Tomei, her character. And he goes, "Well, what are you tattooing my son for?" Blah 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 blah. And so he's all pissed off, right? So anyhow, they don't get off on the right foot to begin with. And so they start hooking up. Marissa Tomei's character and the firefighter start hooking up, and he starts coming over. And pretty soon he starts taking over the place. Like, "You need to get a job, and you need to do something with your life." Blah blah blah. And then pretty soon they end up getting a big brawl, right? A fight, right? And he picks him up. He picks up Pete Davidson, throws him in the pool, right? So anyhow, Marissa Tomei's character catches them, in this fight, and she kicks them both out of here, both of you. And so anyhow, Pete ends up at the fire station. He goes, "Hey, I don't have anywhere to go. Can I stay here?" They go, "Well, as long as you do your fair share of chores." And so he does. He starts learning how to become a firefighter, learning how to take care of the station, and pretty soon he ends up. They take him on a couple of fires that they go to. So anyhow, they end up hanging out and partying together with all the other firefighters, and pretty soon he ends up becoming a firefighter. So it was pretty interesting. It was a funny movie. Oh man, there was some funny stuff in there. Now, next, my next guest needs no introduction. That's actually like a talk show type of thing with David Letterman, and his guest for this particular show was Kim Kardashian West. And again, this came out this year on Netflix again, and there was wow, if you've never seen the true authenticity of who Kim Kardashian is, this is probably a good show to watch. She talks about her father being a lawyer and representing not Joe Namath, O.J. Simpson, and that whole episode, and then somewhere down the line she ends up getting robbed, and she thought her life was over, and that sent her into a whole PTSD mode, and then I mean all kinds of stuff, and then she walks in on her dad, who's a cross-dresser and eventually becomes a transsexual or what transformed. I don't know what you call it, but anyhow, she ends up walking on him, and they go through all that. I mean, just a whole bunch of stuff that she goes through in her life, and it's like, wow, you know, if you and now she's working on becoming a lawyer, and wanting to represent, I believe, women that have gone through all kinds of stuff, and I don't know all the other stuff, but anyhow, people that are in jail and are innocent, and she wants to get them all released and all this other stuff. So anyhow, very interesting stuff. Lots of drama in that whole show, but that's besides the point. 2020, another movie that came out this year, The Outpost. I believe, this was a true event movie about a group of soldiers. I believe it was Army. I don't know if it was Marine. I think it was an Army. You know, Scott Eastwood, and I don't know if that's Clint Eastwood's son or not, or his relation or not. But anyhow, Caleb Landry Jones, Orlando Bloom, Milo Gibson, Jacob Scipio, Jack Casey, Corey Hardrick, and Orlando Bloom started out at the beginning with him being at one of the platoon sergeants or commander, and he ends up getting killed right off the bat. He's not in that movie very long. And then Milo Gibson, this was actually a good part for him because there's a group of soldiers that are holding down a fort in these mountains, and they're in the line of fire, and a lot of the locals come over and start shooting at them all the time. And then Orlando Bloom gets killed. You know, they're always getting shot at, and he gets killed. And then they bring in this other black guy, right? And so he ends up getting killed. Or I take it back. I think he left because he couldn't handle it anymore because it was too much firepower for him. And so they get another commander, and he ends up getting killed. So all these commanders are getting killed. It's a very dangerous area. And the locals set up the Taliban, and this was in Afghanistan. They have this. They're in this mountain, and they're just holding down the fort. And they're told that they're going to leave pretty soon, and all of a sudden their stay is extended, so they end up staying even longer. And so right about then, the Taliban comes in, and man, they had probably 100 guys or something like that come in, and they start shooting. They had this whole shootout. Wow, it was pretty intense. But eventually they go, well, no, we're taking back our fort. We're taking back our base. So they make all these maneuvers, and boom, they end up taking back control over their base, and then shortly after that, or in fact maybe that same day, I don't know, but they ended up getting heisted out of there and went home, and all of those people got Purple Hearts and all kinds of medals and stuff for their bravery. So anyhow, and if that's not enough, another movie that came out was Scoob, right? Scooby-Dooby-Doo. So anyhow, Will Forte, Frank Weller, Zac Efron, Amanda Seyfried, Gina Rodriguez, Mark Wahlberg, Kiersey Clemens, Ken Jeong, Jason Isaacs, Tracy Morgan, McKenna Grace, Iana Armitage, Simon Cowell, Christina Hendricks, and Henry Winkler. Wow, what an amazing cast! But anyhow, oh man, they show at the beginning. They show how Scooby and Scooby-Doo and his buddy, I can't remember his name, but anyhow, how they get together. So and then they go somewhere, I don't know. Wilma and Scooby and then the rest, Velma, get all they hook up, and then they're doing, I don't know, they're doing the other three guys are doing something, and then Scooby and what's his name go and they're looking around, and then all of a sudden they get abducted by a UFO, right? Come to find out, it's just really this villain, and so they go through all this mirage of stuff, and the UFO just goes, takes off, and their mouths are like, they look like steps or something. I don't know. Fun. Oh my God, there's some funny stuff in there. But anyhow, at the very end, of course, they get the villain, and they live happily ever after. And you ready for another one? Secret Life of Pets, #2. I don't know if you watched the first one, but if you watched the first one, and you liked it, you'll probably like this other one because it was actually pretty funny too. It came out last year with Kevin Hart, Harrison Ford, Tiffany Haddish, Lake Bell, Dana Carvey, Jenny Slate, and Eric Stone Street. Oh my God. The only thing I can say is just watch it, because there's a lot that happens in this movie. The dog, the main, I can't remember all these characters' names, but anyhow, the main dog, the owner takes him to the vet, and he's like, no, I don't want to go to the vet. You tricked me, because she goes, oh wait, why don't we go for a walk, right? So she grabs the leash and they took off, and sure enough, they end up at the vet office, right? So all these animals are in there. One cat is like totally freaking out, and this other what's it called? I can't remember. I don't know why I can't remember. But anyhow, all these animals are in there. They're all freaking out, and so they go home, and then and he ends up having to wear one of those things that you put over. An animal, they put this plastic thing like shield over their head, so because he was constantly scratching, and so that was supposed to keep him from scratching. So anyhow, they go, well, we're going to the country. So they go out and visit her uncle or something like that. He has a whole farm out there, and Harrison, that's where Harrison Ford comes in. He's like the main dog of all the place, right? He's like the king of the mountain, and he ends up taking off the plastic thing off the dog, right? Patton Oswalt, that's probably him. And so anyhow, they run into these wolves or something like that. What was it there? Anyhow, Kevin Hart is like the superhero bunny, right? He puts on the girl puts on some kind of a costume on him. He's Mr. Super Rabbit, and he's doing all that stuff. So anyhow, the dog, I think his name is Pat Oswalt, gives who is it? Jenny Slate. Maybe it's Jenny Slate, but anyhow, he gives his friend, his dog friend, a ball. He goes, well, here, you keep my ball and watch it and take care of it and make sure you don't lose it, okay? So sure enough, it bounces outside, and it goes into this other apartment with all these cats. Oh my God, how disgusting. There's like 50 cats in this place. And so she goes in there and tries to get the ball, and they chase her out of there, right? So anyhow, they somehow Tiffany Haddish and Jenny Slate, or is it Lake Bell? I don't know, one of them. They end up at the circus, and there's a lion there, right, or a tiger, and so the master is like beating the tiger and really just being really mean to the tiger, right? So they let it loose. They unlatch the lock and they let him loose, and they take off and they go back to the apartments, right? So they stash the tiger there, and anyhow they go through all this stuff. Just there's just a lot of funny stuff in there, and eventually the dog Pat and Oswald, they come home, and they live happily ever after, right? So they're happy to be home, right? And the wolves end up chasing Tiffany Haddish and Lake Bell, I think, because they let the tiger out. So eventually they find the tiger at the apartments, and they somehow they end up mustering up the courage to beat up the wolves, and they take off running, right? So it's like that. Zombie. Now, if you ever watched the first Zombieland, oh man, you'll probably like this one, because it was pretty funny. Oh my God, it was hilarious. It came out last year. Zombieland Double Tap. Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg, Emma Stone, Abigail Breslin, Zoe Deutch, and that's I can't remember what her name. Back to the Future. That the girl in that's her daughter, but I can't remember what her name is. And Rosario Dawson, Luke Wilson, Thomas Middleton. And then Middleton or Middle Ditch. Anyhow, Avon Hohia Jogia. Good job with. Oh, okay. So I'll tell you that in a second, but I wrote myself a little note to remember. But anyhow, they end up at this place, and it's a Elvis Presley museum, right? So they dress up like Elvis Presley, and of course they go, and what's her name? Abigail Breslin takes off. She runs away because she's all pissed off at everybody, and she ends up meeting this other guy. This guy. I think it's, what's his name? Georgia. I'm not sure how you pronounce that name, but anyhow, she ends up meeting this guy, and he's like a stoner and a musician, right? A singer. He's got his guitar, and they end up at some kind of like commune, like where they have a big wall, and they stay safe, and so they only let people in, and if you're normal, if you're a zombie, then you can't get in, right? So anyhow, Woody Harrelson and Jesse. Jesse and Emma Stone are an item. I don't know if they're married or not, but they're an item, and so somehow they get into a pissy fight, and she takes off, and she goes looking for Abigail, and so anyhow, somehow they end up together again, except Abigail is still with a boyfriend out in this commune, and so they go looking for her, and they find her there, and so come to find out that they don't have any guns in this place, so how can they ward off all these zombies, right? So anyhow, the zombies somehow get into the place, and they have this huge brawl, and they end up kicking all their asses, and so anyhow, interesting, but there's a lot of funny stuff in it. That's all. 2016, How to Talk to Girls at Parties, another paranormal movie. Alex Sharp, Elle Fanning, Nicole Kidman, Abraham Lewis, Ethan Lawrence, Ruth Wilson, and Matt Lucas. Now, this was an interesting movie for Nicole Kidman. Oh, and I forgot. In Zombieland, at the very end, Woody Harrelson sings "Burning Love" by Elvis Presley, right? He actually does a pretty good job in singing that, so I was pretty surprised. But anyhow, this other movie, How to Talk to Girls at Parties, these alien people, again, they're like a commune type of gathering. They're from another planet somewhere, and anyhow, they are in this house, this big house, and so I don't know if it's an apartment or a house, but I think it's a house. Anyhow, or a condo, I guess. But anyhow, they're doing all this stuff and all this weird stuff, and oh my God, it's really weird. So Alex Sharp is the one of the locals there. Him and his buddy and his two buddies end up stumbling on this place, and so they invite him. They go inside and they check out the place, and all these people are doing all this weird alien stuff, right? And so anyhow, oh my God, this was a funny movie. But anyhow, something weird really happens, and they end up either getting kicked out or getting out of there, escaping, because some weird stuff is happening. So, but Ellie Fanning, she's not happy being there, so she takes off with Alex Sharp, and they go on this 2-day journey of all this stuff, and then her family and friends, or all these people, community. I don't know if they're committing suicide or whatever, but they end up taking off, and somehow they end up getting involved with each other, Alex Sharp and Ellie Fanning, and she ends up pregnant. So anyhow, she ends up, at the very end, she ends up taking off. And Alex Sharp, he's like, what's it called? They're bumping against each other. They're just like, I want to say talking heads, but no, they're punk rockers. So he's like a punk rocker, and he's involved with all these people that are punk rockers, and they go through all this stuff with Ellie becoming a punk rocker. Oh man, there's some funny stuff around that too. But anyhow, she ends up taking off, and at the very end, and it wasn't 100% that was what was happening, but I'm pretty sure that's what was happening. There's 3 kids that show up at Alex Sharp. He's all bummed out because she takes off, right? So anyhow, like years later, 5 years later, I don't know. Well, maybe several years later, but anyhow, several years later, these kids show up, and come to find out that they're, well, I think one of them, or maybe all of them, are Ellie Fanning's kids. So it was interesting. That ending was pretty interesting. 2013, The Art of the Seal with Kurt Russell, Matt Dillon, Jay Baruchel, Catherine Winnick, Terrence Stamp, and Chris Diamantopo. I don't know if that's how you say it, but anyhow, sorry about that, dude. The Art of the Seal. Well, at the beginning, Kurt Russell was getting out of prison because he gets caught doing some kind of they were robbing something, and Matt Dillon, I believe, is his brother or his buddy, and it ends up ratting him out or something, and so Kurt Russell ends up going to prison for 5 years, 8 years or something, while Matt is out there doing his due, right? So so anyhow, Kurt Russell gets the team back together, and they're gonna rip off some famous, really expensive Bible-like book. It's a book, whatever it is. So anyhow, they go, and the whole idea is that they're gonna rip off this book, and then they're gonna copy it, and then they're gonna sell it to other people. Well, of course, what's his name? Matt Dillon starts pulling his bullshit again, right? So this time Kurt Russell was ready for him, right? And so anyhow, they start reproducing this book, the original, and selling it to other people. And meantime, Matt Dillon is going to screw them over again, but not this time because Kurt's ready for him, and he gets caught, and he ends up going to prison instead. Now, 2011, The Sorcerer and the White Snake with Jet Li, Eva Hong, Charlene Choi, and Raymond Lam. Now, this was a very interesting paranormal movie. There were some interesting special effects in this that were pretty they could have been probably done better, but given 2011, and this was in Japan or China or somewhere in Asia, and they're doing this stuff, and but not just are they doing these special effects, but the idea of the special effects themselves in terms of what they are and how they operate, like the Eva and Charlene are both snakes. One's a green snake and a red snake, and they show them with these long tails, right, and all this stuff happening. And so, anyhow, one of Jet Li's buddies ends up falling in the water, and he's about to drown. And Eva, I think Eva is the white snake one. She goes and saves him, right, and she kisses him so he can breathe. And all of a sudden he just falls in love, blah blah, and she falls in love with him, right? So anyhow, he gets out of the water. He goes, yeah, there was this woman underwater, blah blah blah. She saved me or something. So they end up going back into town, and they're enjoying this festival, this celebration, and they show up at the celebration. The two snakes, the green one and the white one, Charlene and Eva. And so they meet again, and in the meantime, Jet Li and Eva aren't getting along. She's like, he doesn't like her, So anyhow, there's a whole story about how they became snakes or whatever, and they end up in this huge fight, like sorcerer fight type of thing, and finally at the very end, Eva gets caught up in she somehow gets caught in this castle, and she can't escape, and she goes, if I could just meet with Raymond, I don't know who I think his name was Raymond, but if I can just meet with Raymond one more time and kiss him one more time and just tell him I love him or whatever, and then I'll be happy to go back in and just be in my dungeon or whatever. So that's exactly what happens at the end. Jet Li lifts up the building. She goes over there and talks to him and kisses him and shows and says I love you or whatever, and then she goes back into the castle, and they live happily ever after, right? But that's besides the point. So anyhow, 2011, Real Steel, Hugh Jackman, Evelyn Lilly, Dakota Goyo, Hope Davis, James Rebhorn, Anthony Mackie, Kevin Duran, Carl Yoon, and Olga Fonda. Now, if you like Transformers and those types of movies, you'll definitely like this one. Oh my God, this is like a step before the Transformer movies, right? So Hugh Jackman is a boxer, right? And he starts playing around with these Transformer-like robots, right? All these robots. They're huge, right? And they fight them, and they win money. So anyhow, he keeps losing. Come to find out, he has a kid by the name of Dakota Goyo. He's about 10 years old or so. So anyhow, his sister and husband, I believe it's his sister husband. Anyhow, they're going to adopt him and take him, and have, so he can grow up with them. But he somehow he ends. The kid ends up with Hugh Jackman for a week. Oh, because James Rebhorn and his wife Hope Davis, they're going to go on vacation, and then they're going to come back, and then they're going to take the kid, right? So he goes, well, I'll take him, and then when you guys get back, you can pick him up. So in the meantime, he goes, in the meantime, if I do this, you have to pay me $500,000 or something like that. So James does. He takes out the dough. He gives him $250,000. He goes, here, half now and then half later when we get back. So he does. They take off, and then Hugh takes his kid back to his place where Evangeline is at, and they somehow Hugh buys a robot with that, one of those big robots, and they take him to fight, and he gets torn up to shreds, right? The robot. Oh my God! So anyhow, they go to this junkyard where all these robots, robot parts are at, and he's going to put together a robot, and Dakota finds a robot. So he takes, and it's like an older robot that can. It's like cars this day and age. Cars this day and age, you hit them once and one little time, and they fall apart, right? So it's like that. But the old cars, they're made of real steel, and they can take a beating like no tomorrow. This robot was like that, right? So anyhow, Dakota fixes them up and teaches them all this stuff, and they go and they start kicking they start beating up all these other robots, right? And so finally they end up I don't know what, doing some big match, and I think they ended up beating up that robot, and they won all this money. And so anyhow, but right about that time, James and Hope come home from their vacation, so now he's got to go with them, and somehow I think he ends up keeping the kid or whatever. But anyhow, the kid, they end up living happily ever after. So it's like that. 2010, Wall Street, Money Never Sleeps. Shia LaBeouf, Carey Mulligan, Michael Douglas, Josh Brolin, Susan Sarandon, Ellie Wallach, Charlie Sheen, Frank Langella, Austin Pendleton, and I think I don't have it here, but I believe this was based on some actual events that took place back in 2008, when the whole stock market crashed. This company is making all this money, and I can't remember who it was. Ellie Wallach. Anyhow, there's all these people working at this company, and that are at the stock marketplace, Wall Street, and they all take off to go party. Except, and meantime, the company is they're sizing it down, and they lay off all these people, right? And one of the guys that they laid off was I don't even know if I have his name. Anyhow, one of the main supervisors was laid off, and he goes, he has this flash drive, and to one of the young guys that's still there, he goes, here, take this and be careful. So he opens up the flash drive and starts looking through all the information. Come to find out, he figures out that there's some kind of scam going on, and the company's about to fold over. So he calls his buddies, and his buddies call Michael Douglas. This is one of the supervisors, and they have this big meeting, and what they decided to do is they're gonna do a huge sellout, sell all the stock, and before the stock market crashes, and get rid of everything they can and make as much money as they can. And sure enough, they did. They made a whole bundle of money, and the stock market crashed right afterwards. So, and that was a huge moment in U.S. history. Well, I think planet Earth's history. Confessions of a Shopaholic, 2009, with Isla Fisher, Kristen Ritter, Hugh Dancy, Joan Cusack, John Goodman, John Lithgow, Kristen Scott Thomas, Lynn Redgrave, Leslie Bibb, Julie Haggerty and Ed Helms. Um, Isla Fisher, she I think she grew up in a impoverished type of home, and when she was growing up, she would end up at some of these fancy shopping stores, and she would see these women, these good-looking women, buying all this stuff, and they were using the magic card, the credit card, the debit card, right? The credit card. So she ended up learning how to get those cards and use them and work with them, and so anyhow, somehow she ends up losing everything. Oh my God! So she goes and she has to get a job, right? Now she has to get a job. So she ends up working for this company that savings agency or something like that teaches people how to save money or whatever. So anyhow, she ends up setting up of this whole shopping spree. She has to sell all her stuff to pay for her bill, because she rings up a bill of $9,000 and some $9,000, I think almost $10,000, and so she has to pay that back. And so she ends up selling all her clothes and marketing everything. And anyhow, the guy that runs this magazine, magazine, I think it's a magazine, savings magazine or something like that. But the guy that runs it, apparently, his mom runs and operates another magazine, which is a really well-to-do magazine, and Isla is a writer, and she wants to work for that other magazine. So she wants to get a foot in the door so she can work for them. And so anyhow, apparently the guy that owns the savings magazine or whatever it's called, his mom owns and operates the other magazine. So anyhow, they go through all this stuff, and she finally gets her shot at working at the fancy magazine. But I think she ends up hooking up with a guy from the savings magazine or whatever it's called. Anyhow, Ghost Rider 2007. Now there's another Ghost Rider 2012, I think. I don't remember that it's called Ghost Rider something. Some Revenge or Vengeance is some, I don't know what it's called, but there's another one. I haven't watched it yet, but this was actually interesting. Nicolas Cage, Eva Mendes, Sam Elliott, Peter Fonda, Wes Bentley. Nicolas Cage and Eva Mendes, they're an item, when they're growing up in high school. They're hooked up with each other. And Nicolas Cage's father, I think Nicolas Cage is like Evel Knievel, a motorcycle rider. He jumps over all the stuff. So and his father does the same thing. So anyhow, somehow Nicolas Cage has an encounter with the devil, right? Wes Bentley, I think, is who it is. But anyhow, he ends up selling his soul, per se, to the devil, and in trade for his father not being healed because he was sick or something. And then so his father is healed, and I think he's healed of cancer. And then the father goes and does a jump and gets killed from the jump. so anyhow, what a shyster, right? What a typical Satan, what a typical devil, right? So anyhow, Nicolas Cage grows up and he does the jumps, and he does all these like dangerous, crazy jumps, and never gets hurt, never gets killed, nothing. And because in a way he tries to set up a jump so he'll get killed, but he never gets killed, right? So anyhow, he's gonna do a jump. In the meantime, him and Eva Mendes break up. The high school sweetheart break up, and then later on they end up meeting again. She's a television reporter. So he ends up going. They get hooked up again, more or less, and they're supposed to go out on a date, but he ends up having to do some kind of stuff some kind of battle with all these devils that are out there. So he stands up, and then she's all pissed off, blah blah. So anyhow, he tells her what's going on, and she kind of doesn't believe him, and so they end up writing, and sure enough, he ends up in this fight with these evil people, right? They're trying to kill him and kill her. So eventually, he ends up taking, I think, 3 or 4 of these evil guys out, and then finally, I think Wes Bentley, the last guy standing, he ends up taking him out too, or whatever. So anyhow, interesting movie, interesting special effects too. 2006 Outsourced. Josh Hamilton, Ayesha Darker, and Asif Ashra. Now, this was a very interesting movie in the sense that it's like a cultural clash going on. Josh Hamilton is going to lose his job. His company is outsourcing all the work to people from other countries, and India is one of them. So he has to go to India and train his new replacement, right? What a bullshit scheme, right? So he goes over there and he learns all this stuff about India, all this stuff, and and they teach him just as much as he teaches them, and so in that he ends up, I think, quitting the company at the very end and sending because all of a sudden the company moves to another country, I think to China, to outsource their work there instead, where it's cheaper. So they still screw him at the end again. So he finally says, "Screw it, I'm done with you." Anyhow, very interesting movie. Last Holiday with Queen Latifah, LL Cool J, Timothy Hutton, Gerard Depardieu, Giancarlo Esposito, Alicia Witt, Michael Nuri, Jacqueline Fleming, Smokey Robinson. This came out in 2005. Queen Latifah works for this company, right? And she goes and she cooks different things to show how the hardware, the software, or not the software, but the silverware work in the kitchen, their barbecuers and all this stuff. So she ends up, and she likes to cook. She's a really good cook. So anyhow, she likes this guy in the place at the same business company, and they end up starting to talk with each other, and all of a sudden she drops something, and she goes and gets up to she goes and picks it up, and then she gets up and she hits her head, and then she ends up at the doctor's, and the doctor all of a sudden finds out that supposedly she has cancer or something. She only has 3 weeks to live or something like that. So she goes and tells her boss, who's a real prick, right? See you later, and she quits her job, takes all her money that she has in savings, and takes off, right, to France, or I can't remember where she went to, but some other country. Anyhow, she ends up there and eating all this food, getting all these clothes, looking like $1 million, doing all this stuff, skiing and doing skydiving, all this stuff. And meantime, there's some people there from the States, from where she's from. I think it was Chicago again, there's some people there that are there where she's at in this other country, and so she ends up hooking up with them and talking to them, and it's a Cinderella story. The guy that she really likes at the company ends up chasing her. He finds out that she took off and she quit, so he goes into where she's at and finds her there, and they live happily ever after, right? It's like that. 2001, 100 Girls. Jonathan Tucker, Emmanuel Creaky, Catherine Hagel, Jamie Presley, Larissa Olinek, and then James DeBello. This guy, he's a college student. This is what This is one of those college shows, movies. He goes. I don't know. He's going somewhere in this dorm. Where I think that's where he lives at. But he's somewhere. He's going to his room or something. And all of a sudden the power goes out, and he ends up in this elevator, and the elevator closes and locks. In the meantime, there's a woman there, a female there, a college student there, and they're the only two in there. So anyhow, they end up having you've heard of blind dates. Well, this is blind sex. He doesn't even know what she looks like, right? So they end up having having a sexual interlude, and he wakes up in the morning, and they finally open the elevator, and she's already gone. So he ends up coming up with a scheme of being a janitor or maintenance person, and goes through through several of the dorm rooms, because the girl that he had sex with, she left him his panties, or her panties, and so that's all he has to go on to figure out who she is. So he goes into all these other female dorm rooms to see if he can find the matching bra to that, right? So finally, towards the end, he still can't find her. He just talks to all of them. He goes, one of you is my soulmate, blah 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 blah, and I had a great time, and I really want to hook up with you, blah blah. And all these girls, the college girls, are going, oh, that was me, and one of them goes, oh, that wasn't me, but I'll still hook up with you. So they're all doing all this stuff. So anyhow, somehow he finally figures out who she is, and I think they hook up at the end. So 2001, The Last Castle. Wow, if you're ex-military, or if you're military, or even law enforcement or whatever, you'll probably like this movie. The Last Castle. Robert Redford, James Gandolfini, Mark Ruffalo, Steve Burton, Delroy Lindo, Clifton Collins Jr., and Robin Wright. Wow, this was an intense movie. Robert Redford is a general, right, in the army. I think it was the army, and he ends up I don't know. He's in battle. And he's out in the field, and his people get killed. His troops get killed because supposedly he made a wrong move. He made a wrong decision. So he ends up having to go to a prison because of this. He gets convicted. So he ends up at James Gandolfini's character, his character's prison, because James runs the place, right? So he tries to be cordial with them because Robert Redford's character, General, the general, is very famous throughout the military, right? Because of all the stuff he did. He helped save a lot of people and all this other stuff. So anyhow, he tries to be very cordial with them. But in the meantime, Robert Redford come to find out that James is having people killed, all kinds of brutality, abuse going on. And finally he said, okay, that's enough. He tells all the prisoners, we're taking over this prison, blah, blah, blah. So anyhow, they take it over and they run over everything. And in the meantime, at the very end, James Gandolfini's character loses it, man. He loses it, and he ends up killing Robert Redford at the very end, which is bullshit. But anyhow, that's how that movie ended. I don't know. I don't think that was a true story, but I tell you what, they had some really good detail in that, so it was pretty interesting. Anyhow, really intense movie. 2000, Return to Me, David Duchovny. I have a hard time with this guy's last name. Duchovny. He's Dutch, right? Whatever. Anyhow, this guy David and Minnie Driver, Carol O'Connor, Jim Belushi, Bonnie Hunt, David Allen Greer, Jolie Richardson, David Allen, Robert Logia, Eddie Jones, Marianne Weller Lyle. I'm not sure how you say it, but anyhow. David Duchovny is I can't remember if he works as a salesperson or whatever, but he works in this. He works in this for this construction company, and he runs the construction company or something like that. In the meantime, his wife, Bonnie Hunt, no, I can't remember who his wife is, but his wife, Marianne Mueller Lyle, I think she's his wife at the time, at the very beginning. She works in this zoo type with these all these mammal apes and all this stuff, and so she wants to get a big space for the male that lives there, because it's a very small space that he lives in. So anyhow, she ends up I can't remember, it was a car accident. She ends up dying at the very beginning, his wife, and in the meantime, Minnie Driver's in the hospital. She's waiting on a heart. She needs a heart transplant. So she gets David's wife's heart, and so so immediately, David and his buddies are at the restaurant where Minnie works at, and immediately they have this connection. I don't know why, but they do. But anyhow, they end up getting hooked up together and talking to each other, and they start going out with each other. And meantime, her grandfather, who's Carol O'Connor, Minnie Driver's grandfather, and his buddies are like, yeah, you need to go out with this guy. They're pushing her and to go out with him and all this stuff, other stuff. So anyhow, they end up getting hooked up, and meantime, Minnie is going to go to Paris, France, and I don't know what the deal is with Paris, but it keeps coming up. But anyhow, she's going to go there to do an art program, and so anyhow, finally, she ends up telling David about the heart transplant, and but she figures out that it's his wife's heart before she does tell him. And so she does. She finally tells him because she knows she has to. And then she takes off to France. And then David ends up going to chase her in France and meeting her there. And they live happily ever after. Oh, there you go. Thank you very much. Anyhow, Men of Honor. Robert De Niro, Cuba Gooding Jr., Charlize Theron, Anjanu Ellis, Hal Halbrook, and Michael Rappaport. Now, this was a very intense movie. Oh my God! Again, we're talking about all these riots going on. Well, Robert De Niro and Cuba Gooding had their own riot going on with each other, right? So they're in the Navy, and Robert De Niro ends up teaching diving to a special group of Navy SEALs or something like that. So anyhow, Cuba ends up getting accepted. He's the first black man that's ever been accepted to such a program. So, of course, he has to go through all the bullshit that comes along with prejudice, and finally he gets to the program, and he ends up going to assigned to some ship, and he has to go dive, and they're looking for a missile. So he finds the missile, and then they bring it up, and I believe that was when all of a sudden the missile fell on his leg and broke his leg. So anyhow, he ended up, and I believe that, yeah, this was based on true events as well. He ends up, going through all this rehabilitation and physical therapy, and he ends up getting an artificial leg, one of those automated ones that so he can run and do all kinds of stuff. Well, he says, well, screw it. If I can do all this, I'm going to go back into the Navy and start diving again. So he pushes to dive again, and they refuse to let him go back into diving again. And he says they go to court on this, right? And Robert De Niro, he ends up becoming buddies with this guy, and he supports him. He goes, well, just let's train you and let's get you up and going, and make sure you can do this. So, and in court, they're all in court. They go, well, this is the new design for the divers. It's like this huge piece of metal. Man, I don't know how much it weighed, but I know it was heavy. He goes, if you can take 8 steps and walk to me over here, then you can get back into the program. So Robert De Niro coaches him, and he goes, come on, Cuba, you can do this. You can do this. So he does. He gets into the suit, and he does his 8 steps. And apparently, after that, he ended up diving for another 9 years or something like that. I can't remember what. But he still continued to dive for several years after that. So, very amazing story. 1999, Big Daddy with Adam Sandler, Cole, and Dylan Sprouse. Joey, and that's the little boy. Joey, Lauren Adams, Leslie Mann, Rob Schneider, Jon Stewart, Christy Swanson. And so Adam Sandler is like this rich, spoiled kid, right? That's lazy and doesn't do anything just except party and eat, and that's about it. And he has this girlfriend. So his girlfriend leaves him, and so he wants to win her back. So I still don't understand. I don't remember how he ended up with this kid, but he ended up with this kid being his foster dad, right? So he takes the kid, and I think there was miscommunication or something with social services or something like that. I don't know what. So he ends up with the kid, and he starts hanging out with the kid and being his dad, and he goes up to his girlfriend. He goes, hey, here, look what I brought you, a kid. Now we can be a family. And she's going, oh, right, you're funny. So she like skedaddles, right? And so anyhow, there's all this whole a turn of events that happen with this kid. And he starts teaching him all this stuff. They're doing all this stuff, so anyhow, they somehow end up. I think the social services catches up with him, and he goes, man, you're in big trouble. I don't remember if she said, well, you're in big trouble, and then worked it out. But anyhow, I think they worked it out, and one of his buddies ends up adopting the kid anyhow, and so he still got to visit his little buddy. So anyhow, 1994, guarding Tess, Shirley MacLaine, Nicolas Cage, Austin Pendleton, James Reborn, and Richard Griffiths. I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, but if you haven't, wow, this is an old movie, but I tell you what, it's like wine. The older it gets, the better it gets. It's like that. And this Shirley MacLaine is like, I think she's the wife of president or something like that, or the mother of the president, I think, or something. Anyhow, she has the Secret Service watching over her because of her affiliations with the president or whatever. So anyhow, Nicolas Cage is the head cheese Secret Service guy there, and he's retired. At the beginning, he's retiring because he's had enough, right? He's had enough of Shirley MacLaine. But that's his other point. So anyhow, the president calls him. He goes, I want you to stay on Secret Service and still take care of my mom, or Shirley MacLaine, her character, right? He's going, oh my God, really? I have to? So he does. He goes back into the line of fire, right? Literally with Shirley MacLaine. So anyhow, they go through all this stuff. This this arguing that he ends up taking her to the ballet, not the ballet, but the opera, and golfing and shooting and all this stuff. And at the very end, she ends up getting kidnapped by one of the local servants. I don't remember who. They kidnap her and they have her in this and they have her in this hole where there's only a pipe, and that's the only air getting into this place, right? And they literally have her like almost in a coffin, and the only way she can breathe is through this pipe. Wow, that would drive me crazy. So anyhow, Nicolas Cage figures it out, and he goes and they go with the police and all this other stuff, FBI, and they find her and get her out of there, and they live happily ever after, right? So anyhow, 1978. Now this is an oldie but a goodie, Grease. Now I believe, was it last time or the time before last? I did a review on Grease 2, which was okay, but it was nothing compared to the Grease, the first musical. John Travolta, Olivia Newton-John, Elvis Presley. Oh, that's right, he was in the background. Stockard Channing, Dee Dee Conn, Jeff Conway, Dodie Goodman, Alice Ghostley, and Frankie Avalon. John Travolta belongs to, back in the day, it was nothing for gangs and their motorcycle gangs to hook up in high school and go and hang out and do all this stuff, and they had both the female and the male. So there was the Pinkies and the I can't remember what John Travolta's group was. Anyhow, Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta meet. And initially, before when the movie starts, they met at the beach during the summertime, and they hooked up, and they went out and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, she ends up at his high school. She's from Australia or whatever, and so she ends up there at his high school transferring, and so they end up running into each other, of course. And so John Travolta tells all his buddies everything that happened, and then Olivia Newton-John tells all her new friends, the Pinkies, everything that happened between her and John. And of course, Olivia's story from John's story are completely different, but that's besides the point. So anyhow, John Travolta decides she's going to try to become a jock, so that he can meet her standards, so they can hook up, because she ends up becoming a cheerleader, right? So anyhow, that's not working, and the Pinkies are like, she's hanging out with the Pinkies, and so towards the end, of course, Olivia Newton-John decides she's gonna become a Pinky. So she puts on this leather outfit. Oh my God, at the very end. And they do this routine and song and dance routine, and I think they heated up the screen pretty good, but that's the point. Anyhow, the next live show I'm gonna do. Wow, I can't believe I did an hour and a half of this almost. The next live show I'm gonna do is 1.5 thumbs up. Hopefully within the next week or so. I don't know. It took me a while to get to this point. I don't know. Stuff kept coming up, and I kept end up having to put it off. And so, anyhow, again, if you want to check this out, I have the 2 thumb up movies. I have them. Let me see. If you go to my YouTube channel, Andrew Aloha YouTube channel, if it says 270 or whatever followers or whatever, then it's the right channel, I think. Because I don't know, every time I try to record one of these, somebody keeps changing it around on me or something. I don't know what happens. But anyhow, if it says 270 followers, then that's probably the right channel. Anyhow, if you go to my playlist, it'll say 2 thumbs up movies, and you can check them out and see what you think for yourself if you want to do that. Oh, before I forget, 3 other movies I want to tell you about. Number 1 is Avatar 2, and I think there's a trailer for that, but it's not clear. Apparently there's going to be a new leader that's going to come in and take over the place or something. I don't know. He's going to be born and all this other stuff. So Avatar 2, I think it's not coming out till next year, or maybe the following year, maybe this year, but I think it's going to be next year. And then Matrix 4, Child of Zion, is coming out. Again, I was not really clear in understanding what the whole plot was all about, but there's a trailer for that, and then Pitch Perfect 4. If you watch any of Pitch Perfect movies, there's a 4th one that's coming out. I don't think there's any actual trailer for that's come out, but they're working on it, and that movie definitely isn't coming out till, I believe, 2022. If you go to IMDb, there's a written synopsis of Pitch Perfect 4 there if you want to check it out for yourself. Anyhow, thanks for stopping by. If I don't talk to you till afterwards, have a nice turkey holiday. Be the love that you are, always have been, and always will be. Aloha.